So here's the problem. You've just created another 4-chord progression to start a new track, but it almost sounds the same as the last one. It just sounds so boring. So welcome to the ground noise, where I try to help you to get out of the hamster wheel with my 9 easy to apply tips to spice up that freaking chord progression. And yes, believe me, these 9 tips are really super easy to understand, absolutely beginner friendly and no music theory required. I know it sounds way too good to be true, so stay tuned and let's check out what I've prepared for you. Okay, here we go. This is a drum and bass backing track and a piano track that plays 4 chords. And the good thing is that the actual chords really don't matter. You can take whatever chords you have in mind. This is only an example and I'm using very simple sounds because I don't want to distract anybody with fancy stuff. That's not the point here. So I've decided for a C major scale and the chords are C, D minor, E minor and F. And of course when I only say F, it only means major, okay? Yeah, and this is how it sounds so far. Yeah, nice and good, but the part itself looks very common, am I right? All the chords start on the first quarter note and continue throughout the whole bar. Nothing special so far, and that's the problem. This is exactly what everybody seems to be doing all of the time. And look, for every musician, it's a very big deal to not only think about where to start playing a note, but also where to end it. And that's my tip number 1. Be aware of the length of the notes and let them end earlier. Like in this example, I have a nice backbeat going on with a snare playing on the 2 and the 4, very straightforward. And so I also shortened the chords to create this little gap here on the 4th quarter note. And now I will play the default version again and then jump to this new version with the shortened chords, and I'm very sure that you will hear a big difference. Yeah, this trick is very nice to support the groove, to make everything sound a little bit more transparent, because sometimes you have a long release time or a big reverb on the chord sound, like in a pad or even on a piano, and it creates a not so nice overlap of the notes, and this is a way to fight that, to avoid that. But okay, let's better continue with tip number 2. So we had the problem that all the chords start on the first quarter note. It's always the same, but in my tip number 2, we try something that's called advanced chords or playing in advance. You see that only my first chord starts on the 1 and the other 3 chords start a little bit earlier, an 8th note earlier. This is a thing that works really, really good and it sounds very uplifting. Let's check it out. Okay, this technique is very common and it's a no-brainer. You really got to figure it out and put it in your arrangement repertoire. The only thing you have to keep in mind is maybe that you also want to change other instruments to let them play in advance. Not in this case so much, I only have a neutral backing track. But imagine you have more instruments or even like a rock track or whatever. Maybe it's a good idea to check the other instruments as well if they can play in advance, because otherwise it can create a little bit of rhythmic confusion. So that's something you have to keep in mind, and let's continue with tip number 3. It's pretty much the same, but this time we don't play the chords in advance, but we delay them. We play them a little bit later. Yeah, and I think this is one of my favorite methods to play chords and in an arrangement because it's not so uplifting, but more lyrical. I don't know, it leaves more room. and it's a good way to clean up the arrangement when there is, everything is happening, everything is changing on the first quarter, all the instruments. And sometimes it's a good idea, maybe in this case here with the piano, that it comes a little bit later. And you will hear that it sounds very different than the advanced chords, not so uplifting, but still pretty interesting. Now give me a second to remind you to do all the nice things and to give you something like a master tip, okay? Because every time you work on a part and you're getting stuck and you have no idea what to do next, just look at the stuff you already got. For example, the bass line or the drum groove. And I'm thinking of the bass drum right now because the bass drum plays some interesting accents and it has a certain pulse, and maybe it's a good idea to support the drum track with the chords. And the best way to do it is to listen to the drum beat and the bass beat maybe. Yeah, as you can see, I've made changes to our 4 chords here. So that they also play the bass drum accents in the middle of the bar. Doom, deck, doom, doom. Just listen to it. Very interesting, maybe for a bridge or something. And this is also the right moment to remember the first tip and to think about the length of the notes. Let me shorten the notes for like a 16th a note and play it again. Yeah, right, this isn't maybe absolutely perfect, but I hope you understand where this concept is going. Alright, let's go on to the next tip, and I call it what you can do to the kick drum, you can also do to the snare drum. And this means I changed the chord track so that it looks like a snare drum that plays on the 2 and the 4. And of course I needed to shorten the chords as well. A whole different vibe, okay? And you can also like mute the snare drum. It's a nice arrangement idea. Where is the snare drum? I think this one. Let's play it again. Now I have another like master tip for you, if you will. Every time you have a couple of options, like in our case, we have 5 options so far, what we can do with our chord progression, and we can start to create variations, we can start to combine them, okay? Combinations and variations are key. These things are so important, and every time you have 3 things, 3 options, don't try to decide for one of them. Better try to come up with interesting variations and combinations. That's very powerful. Let's listen to the next tip. So here I try to apply the first 5 tips, and I've made these combinations. Here's the shortened chord, where I was thinking about the actual length of the notes, and the advanced chord that plays a little bit earlier, then the chords that play together with the bass drum, and then the delayed chord, and here this is the snare chord. I call it the snare chord, okay? Now let's catch some breath and let's talk about robots. Do you like robots? I like robots, but sometimes I also like humans as well. And what I want to say here is that everything we played so far sounds very robotic, like playing all the notes at the same time with the same velocity. We are not talking about dynamics in this video. Don't be scared, okay? We should talk about dynamic playing and dynamics in another video, of course, but not this time. Now we want to keep it simple. But when you play a chord like this with all the notes at the same time, it sounds a bit stale. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. No, sometimes it's a good thing. I'm just saying that we're trying to create more options, okay? And when we play the single notes of the chord one after another, pretty fast after another, it sounds softer and a little bit more like a human. And this is how it looks. So in case you don't have a keyboard and you cannot play a keyboard, get one and learn it. Just kidding, but get one and learn it. I'm only the drummer. When I can do it, you can do it too. Just jokes aside, what I want to say is you can absolutely write such humanized parts in the editor. I only deactivated the grid so I can move the notes freely. And yeah, you can see what I did here. And I also start the lowest note of the chord, the root note, a little bit later, not exactly on the one. Okay, this is absolutely working. Yeah, very nice. Suddenly it sounds more like a love song. So let's quickly continue with the next tip. This is tip number 8, believe it or not. And this means we have to arpeggiate the chord. Oh no! Oh no! What does that mean? Oh no! I promise you to not use music theory, and now I come up with terms like arpeggiate. What does it even mean? Well, an arpeggio is just a chord where we don't play all the notes in that chord at the same time, what we do all the time here in this video. No, we play the notes of the chord one after another, but this time not in a humanized and sloppy way, but in a way that makes sense musically, and yeah, it has a rhythmical meaning. So we play, for example, eighth notes, and that's what I did here. Yeah, here's our same old chord progression, but this time it looks differently. It looks like a staircase, and I start with the lowest note, and then in eighth note steps, I continue up to the highest note. Yeah, when we go upstairs, we also can go, hopefully, downstairs, and starting with the highest note and ending on the lowest note, it sounds like this. And believe it or not, but we almost reached the end of the video. But not so fast, okay? I still have one more exciting tip for you. Just get prepared to write a comment and let me know what you think. Do you have more tips like that? Or maybe you want me to make videos about a certain topic, or just want to say hi. I thank you very much for your input. And now let's continue. And this one looks really wild, I know. It's about sequencing, okay? Sequencing is almost like an arpeggio. You play the single notes of a chord, but more in a like melodic or sometimes chaotic way. And you can absolutely write such things in an editor, and you don't have to play it. The trick is that you only use the notes of that chord, the 3 notes of our chord. Here's a C major, for example, in the first bar. And you order them in a certain way, like the root note, then the 5th and the 3rd, and the 5th again. Doonti, 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 doonti. And the second bar has a different pattern. Every bar has a different pattern here, just to show you. Here I repeat the 3 notes, starting with the lowest one, and I repeat this pattern. And this is the reversed version, where I start with the highest note. and go down and repeat this pattern. And here in the last one I have an up and down pattern. It goes up and down. It's very, very common for a sequencer, but I think it's a good idea maybe to make another video about that. Now let's listen to this wild sequence here with all the different patterns. And that's it for today. Please don't forget to leave a like before you go and also subscribe to the channel. My name is Markus. I thank you very much for watching and hope to see you soon in the next one. Take care.